Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the TGE Travel Chronicles. What I want to talk today about is my trip to Egypt back this past spring. There was going to be an episode on my travel show posted, but all the video came out of poor quality. The autofocus was just going in and out. Films weren't recording right, so that was with my older camera. I'm actually recording on my newer camera right now. So I would have to go back to Egypt and re-record everything. But I like to talk about Egypt just because it's a country that a lot of people want to travel to, but they're afraid to just because of the Arab Spring Revolution that happened a couple of years ago. Every once in a blue moon, there's articles about terrorism and bus got bombed, etc. But when I went, I felt relatively safe up until before I left the country. I felt relatively safe. Everyone was friendly, everyone was great, and I highly recommend going to Egypt. So, me and my wife, we flew out to Egypt surprisingly on a whim. I wasn't planning on going at all for quite a while, but the Red Hot Chili Peppers were playing a concert at the Giza Pyramids, and they were only, I think, like the 15th or 16th performing artist to ever perform at the pyramids. So of course my wife's like, let's get tickets, let's go, I think it's going to be great. And I'm over here just kind of hesitant, like okay, like not a problem. Like I thought for sure she wasn't able to get tickets, but she actually scored tickets to this concert at the pyramids. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is really happening. And it was really short notice. It was only like a month and a half away, so it wasn't like I had a whole lot of time to really plan this trip. So I'm like, okay, so had to plan it on a whim, go to San Francisco, fly in on Lufthansa through Munich, and most of the flights into most of the flights into Egypt are, they fly late evening in before midnight, and then they turn around as direct flights back into Europe because it kind of helps feed the connections in and out of Europe out of their hubs. So we get in super late to Egypt. Airport's still pretty busy around midnight. I ended up staying right outside the Giza pyramids. We stayed at the Marriott Mena House, which is an absolutely amazing hotel. It's actually the first hotel in Egypt to get a swimming pool. It's been a hotel since like the early 1900s. They still have the original building and check-in areas from the 1940s, 1950s. So it was a really, really neat hotel to check out. So if you ever get an opportunity to go to Egypt, highly recommend you stay at the Marriott Mena House just outside the Giza pyramids. Like literally you can get a view of the pyramids from right outside your room, and it's within relatively easy walking distance to the pyramids. So we get to our hotel. We took Uber there, and of course I'm thinking Uber rides about 50 minutes, an hour ride, just because Cairo Airport's on the northeast side of town. The Marriott Mena House and the Giza Pyramids are on the southwest side of town, so they're on the completely opposite ends of the Cairo Metroplex. The ride was only about $9, $10 including tip. It was ridiculous because even the top out tip to tip the highest amount was like 90 cents US for tip. It was ridiculously cheap to get around there. And then while I was in Egypt, as long as you stay away from the touristy restaurants, you can literally have lunch for like $5-6 per person. You can have like a real nice huge dinner for like $8-9 a person. It's ridiculously cheap, and it's amazing how strong the US currency is against the Egyptian pound. So once you get there, the US dollar goes really, really far in Egypt, and it's surprising and amazing like what quality you can get for such a cheap price. So anyway, so we get to the hotel, we check in. We had room service just because we got in super late. 24-hour room service was great. We didn't get to bed till like 2-3 in the morning. We woke up early to go to the Giza pyramids, so left the gates, went up to the entry gate, got in. And of course, the second you get in, you have everyone hitting you up like, oh, you want to buy this? Do you want a camera? You want this? You want that? And of course, my real good friend, my buddy Mike, taught me years and years and years ago. So what you do is you don't talk back, because then if you immediately start talking and say, oh, no, thank you, like they assume you speak English. And so if they know you speak English, they're just going to keep talking to you in English and keep trying to sell their wares or try to get you to buy something from them. Or you can always use it's funny, this works most of the time, it's amazing. So you say, I've already done it, I already have it, or I'm leaving tomorrow, especially with the time set presentations. If like oh hey when you leaving? Oh, we're leaving tomorrow, even though I'm really leaving next week. It's like, oh hey, I'm leaving tomorrow. Oh okay, never mind. You have a great day, guys. So I already have it, already done it. I'm leaving tomorrow. That'll get you out of everything 9.9 times out of 10. So we get to the pyramids. The pyramids are really cool. They're really amazing. The Sphinx is there. Walking up to and in the pyramids, I mean, you can walk in the pyramids, but these pyramids really doesn't have much. It's just an empty room, just because, of course, everything was taken out and moved to the Egypt Museum. This trip, we were supposed to go to Valley of the Kings. We didn't actually get to that, but that's okay, though, because there's always another time. And I heard there's usually more in the Valley of Kings to go check out anyway. So my wife really wants to do a camel ride. And of course, by Egyptian law, there is a minimum price for a camel ride. And so it was, I think, like 35, $40 per camel ride, which if you got a camel for an hour, hour and a half, like it's a once in a lifetime thing. So I'm over here like, yeah, not a problem. So find a guy, got some camels, did a camel ride. Come to find out, the guy that was originally asking us for a camel ride at the entry gate, he owned those camels. And so we're like, oh, great. Okay. So kept going along with it. So did a camel ride, did a tour, checked everything out. It was amazing. It was otherworldly because my wife made me a cup, and I'm a big aviation enthusiast. And she made me a water bottle, and it had an old TWA advertising poster back when they used to be really big into advertising posters to show off their destinations in like the 40s and the 50s. And it's a picture of someone with a camel and from the Great Giza Pyramids with a Lockheed Constellation flying over. It's a 4-engine prop airplane that was really prevalent back in the 50s. And it's just amazing that, like, here I am in Egypt in 2019, still experiencing the same thing that these people who took a lot longer to get over here, experiencing the same thing these people did generations before. And it was a very otherworldly feeling, and it was really amazing and awesome to check out. And so, of course, we went to the Sphinx, and of course, we did a couple like poses with the pyramids, different funny poses and stuff, with the whole like forced perspective, distance perspective. It was pretty neat. So then afterwards, what we find out with Egypt a lot is that what the price you're initially quoted is not going to be the final price you're paying. So my advice for Egypt, if you go in somewhere, buying something, camera ride, anything, barter. Absolutely barter what you can. Go in ahead of time with kind of a rough idea in your head what you want to pay. Because if they initially come to you and be like, oh yeah, camera ride, $35, like, oh cool, $35, that's all I'm going to pay. Nah, because they're going to try to get some more money out of you, which for me personally, I was going to be like, okay, if I can do a camera ride for like 50, $60, I'm okay with it, because where else on the planet are you going to do a camel ride in front of pyramids? Like, nowhere else. So of course, ride's over, and of course the guy comes up and he's like, hey, tip your guide. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, of course. Oh, tip me, I own these camels. And it's like, okay, like, no, okay, whatever. And it's like, oh well, you this and that, and of course it was crazy. So we're like, oh, okay, here's some extra cash. Here you go. Cool. See ya. Have a good day. And so we ended up paying only about $50 a person, which is great. So the big thing too in Egypt, though, if you want to barter and trade, you always want to get the smaller bills too, because if you give a larger bill to expect change back, you're not really going to get change back. You're going to be kind of out of that money. I mean, don't expect change back if they're trying to take your money. So just bring smaller bills, so that way at least if you need to give a little bit more, you're not giving a big bill and expecting change back, because they're most likely going to keep it. So we found out the hard way there. So did pyramids for a day. Absolutely amazing. Next day, we went to the Coptic part of Egypt, which is the older part. It's a Christian part. They actually have a lot of Greek Orthodox churches, a lot of different Christian churches over there, and they got even like a Jewish synagogue over there, and it was really cool to check out. And there was a couple little shops that we were checking out, and it's a really, really amazing part of town because, of course, everything is super old and the old stone walls, and it was just it's amazing. It's totally amazing. So that same day, we actually went to the Egyptian Museum too, which is over on that side of the town. The Egyptian Museum is really, really cool. They still have a lot of old artifacts there. They had a special King Tut exhibit, and a couple other of the pharaohs are mummies were there too as well, which was really neat to check out. The big thing though with the Egyptian Museum though is that it's funny. You need a separate license for photography. You need to pay extra. You need to pay extra for a video license too as well, which was crazy to me. I'm like, okay, it's only good for one camera. So of course I brought my camera, and then I had a small GoPro on me. But the GoPro, the batteries were dead. The charging unit wasn't working for some reason, so no big deal. They found my GoPro because you go through another security checkpoint to get in the museum, and they wouldn't let me go through with my GoPro and my camera. They're like, "Oh no, you have to check that. You have to check it." I'm like trying to turn it on. I was like, "Dude, it's dead. I'm not even going to use it." And of course, they're not going to take your word for it. I mean, we go all the way back out to coat check, drop off my GoPro. So at that point, I'm like, "Well, take most of my bag. I don't care." And to get back in, little hiccup, but whatever. So just keep in mind that if you do get a photography license for the Egypt Museum, it's only good for one camera. That's it. So we get in. It's cool to check out, and it's amazing to see all the artifacts, but there's not really a lot of like placards or cards or anything to tell you. I mean, there's some cards around the museum to say like like kind of like generally what this time period is or what it's for, but a lot of the individual stuff they didn't really have anything. So you go into a room and it tells you a little bit about like the artifacts, but like each individual piece you really couldn't, there was really no detail. So it's like, oh cool, I'm checking out this sarcophagus, or I'm checking out this piece of stone work, but I have no idea what's going on with this. Like, okay, cool, but I mean, it's all right. But I know they're building a new Egyptian museum actually in Giza that's supposed to open up, I think, in the next year or two. That's supposed to be way bigger and be way more interactive. So I'm excited to check that out when that opens up. But the Egyptian museum itself is awesome. It's pretty cool. I mean, trying to figure out what's going on with a lot of the artifacts, but I mean, it's cool to see all the old Egyptian artifacts and the mummies and everything else there. It was absolutely amazing. So, my wife is a big shopper. So there's a bazaar by a mosque called Khan El Khalid, I think. If I mispronounce the name, I'm sorry. I'm terrible. I slaughter names really bad. I apologize. But there's a really big shopping bazaar, a couple blocks near this mosque on the east side of town. And you can literally buy anything and everything you want under the sun. Like, we even bought my brother-in-law a cane. We bought hibiscus leaves, a couple little souvenirs. We bought some Egyptian stuff, which was really, really cool. But again, same thing like with the camel ride. You want to go in expecting to pay a certain price and be okay with it. I mean, obviously, if they're going to try to overcharge you, I mean, back away. Just be like, no, I'm good, cool, thanks. But obviously, they're going to price you high, price way lower than what you're expecting to pay. Because if you quote them exactly what you want to pay, you're not going to get it, because they're going to try to meet you somewhere halfway, and that's not going to work out. So, yeah. So we bought a couple rugs, a couple other stuff from the bazaar, a lamp, which was it was really cool. It was a really cool part of town to check out and see all the shops and stuff. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. If you're blonde hair and blue eyed, expect a lot of stares, because my wife is blonde hair and blue eyes, and she got a lot of look from the locals. We were even sitting at a restaurant once, and the people at the table next to us, like the girls were like all whispering to each other and giggling and pointing, and of course, she kind of felt uncomfortable, and it's kind of hard for me to explain to her, be like, well, they're not used to seeing a lot of people with blonde hair, blue eyes over here. It's kind of rare for them. They're just curious. They're not trying to be mean or malicious. And of course, she's all, she was a little upset by it. But, so if you're blonde hair, blue eyes, expect to get a little bit of extra attention. Because, of course, me, I'm 6'3", 6'2". So when I go over to China, I was at a World's Fair in Shanghai in 2010, and people were stopping me constantly to take pictures with me because, tall white guy is super rare in China, and it's like, oh, look, I saw a super tall white guy at the World's Fair. And so for me, it's like, okay, they're more curious and interested than, any ill intent behind it. So just a heads up, blonde hair, blue eyes, expect some attention in Egypt. So, where were they going with this? Oh, so went to the Egyptian Museum, did the shopping, which was really, we did a lot of shopping over there. But the traffic though around rush hour is absolutely insane. Like sometimes to get across town in a car was hour and a half, 2 hours to get across town over rush hour. It's crazy just how busy it is in some of these major arteries. You're literally like inching like every couple of minutes, and it's insane the amount of traffic because they have to share the roads with like, horse and carriage, donkey and carriage, people walking all over the place. And, the roads are pretty narrow. So they weren't really designed with cars in mind back then. And so during rush hour, it could be a little bit hectic. So if you do happen to travel around Cairo during rush hour, do expect a bunch of traffic and bring a lot of patience with you as well. So last night, it was the same night we left, actually. We were catching a 1 a.m. flight out of Cairo airport. And so, of course, we went to the concert, which was the main entry gate is kind of on the north side of the complex. They're actually building a new entrance because the new entrance is going to be a little bit better / more secure / handle more traffic. So that's on the southwest corner of the actual pyramid complex. So everyone went through there. There was like 4 different security checkpoints for the concert. It was insane. And it's funny because I'm from Sacramento, and I ran into a guy in the security line. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm from Santa Cruz." And it's like, "Oh sweet, you're like from like my neck of the woods, like we're halfway around the world." And it was really cool to see like all these different people that have flown from like different corners of the globe for this concert. And it was pretty amazing. So we got in, we had a blast. We had to leave a little bit early, which is fine because, we had to time ourselves like, okay, like how much time do we need to catch this flight to Abu Dhabi? And I had to leave a little early, not a big deal. So we raced out. So the way back was a little sketchy. So the Uber driver came up, dropped someone off. Like, "Oh, hey, I'm your Uber driver." And I'm like, "Wait a second. Like, this is not you. Like, this is not your license plate. Get out of here." So we're waiting for our Uber driver to get through. And obviously, I didn't know if he misunderstood the directions or can get through because there's a separate checkpoint, like a car checkpoint to get into where the Mena House and the Giza pyramids are. If he didn't get through, I'm like, whatever. So I canceled and I reordered. And of course, guess who I got? Mr. Oh, I'm your Uber driver. So we load up, we get in, and it's like, "Hey, buddy, we're in a rush. We need to get to the airport. We got a flight at 1 a.m. to catch." And so, of course, the second we get off the complex, he stops and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm almost out of gas. I need cash for gas." And I'm like, "Absolutely not. I'm getting out. I'm taking my bags out. Like, this is not acceptable. Like, this is ridiculous." "No, no, no, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay." And of course, at that point, I was really sketchy because I had GPS on my phone. It's like, okay, it's that late at night. There's not really a lot of traffic. You should be able to go through the center of town to get there within 40 minutes. Let me tell you what, this guy literally took us the scenic route. He got on the freeway, which curves around the outside of the town, out of the Cairo Metroplex, all the way up past the airport, hook back around down. Like, I'm over here thinking to myself, like, is he taking us somewhere else to do something to us? Because like at that point I was like, you know what? Who cares about the flight? Like, if I have to fight to survive at this point, I'm going to fight to survive at this point. But I knew like I was on the Uber app, but he took the super long way around, took an hour and a half to get to the airport. And I'm over here trying to explain to the guy like, "Hey, let's go, we got to go." So there's a checkpoint to get into the airport. So even before we even got onto the airport, the officer was like, "Oh, hold on, there's an issue with your license. Like, pull over to the side." And I'm just like, "Just let us out of the car. Let's go." Goes to the bathroom, waits time, comes back. And I'm just like, "Dude, like, we gotta go. We got a 1 a.m. flight to catch. Like, what the heck is this?" And of course, the whole time the Uber time is going and going and going. So finally that gets rectified somehow, some way. Get to the airport, drop off, and literally we made it check-in time because it's an hour cutoff for international flights, and we made it by like 5-10 minutes. It was super close. And I'm just like, oh my god, that was ridiculous. Like, that was the whole time I was in Egypt, I totally felt unsafe. And of course this Uber driver only had 10 rides, and I'm just like, oh my god. Like, so if you're ever in Egypt, make sure that your Uber driver has had a bunch of rides and make sure there's nothing shady, because I should have just hopped out at the hotel like the second got off property and like star that I should have just hopped down and be like, you know what? If I miss this flight, I miss the flight. It is what it is. But I was so desperate for time that I just kept going along with it, and I shouldn't have. I should have second guessed myself. And nope, I'm gonna get another Uber driver. Like, no, you're hitting me up for cash. You're taking the long way around. This is ridiculous. And so, remember when I told you earlier this episode that it only took about $9 to $10 to get there? Yeah, it was almost like $25. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And I'm like, you know what? Let's just get out of the country. Let's just get on the plane. I'll deal with it later. So, of course, get there, right to Uber to complain like this guy totally took the wrong direction. He took us the long way around. He asked for cash for gas, and I totally did not feel safe at all. And it was insane because, surprisingly, too, most of the cars in Egypt do not have seatbelts in the back seat. I think I only had one or two cars the whole time I got Ubers around town. Which, by the way, around town is like $1 or $2. It's freaking amazing. With seatbelts. So most of the cars there don't have seatbelts in the rear seat, and so like my wife and I look at each other and be like, "Well, okay, it's God's plan now. Let's see. Let's hope no one sideswipes us, because if they do, we're done." And so yeah, so just heads up if you ever go to Egypt with Uber, that expect cars with no seatbelts. But when I wrote to Uber, they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry. We're gonna get this driver off the platform. Here's your refund of," I think they refunded me almost like 15-ish bucks. So it kind of was around what it should have been. And yeah, I mean, left Egypt and went through Abu Dhabi back to LA, and it was an amazing trip. Like, I absolutely loved Egypt, and I loved the country and the people and just the sights, and it was just absolutely amazing. I love it. But other than that little hiccup at the end getting to the airport, like, it was an amazing trip, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And I highly, highly recommend, even though you might hear negative stuff about Egypt, go see it. Do a camel ride. Absolutely amazing. And other than that, that is it for this episode of Globetrotting Extraordinaire, TGE Travel Chronicles. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Catch you on the flip side.